was an extraordinarily humbling opportunity for our team at Arena Labs. And when we look at the genesis of our company, we really stumbled into the world of what we call high performance medicine. And the idea behind what we do is bringing the science of world-class thinking, the creative arts, and elite teams into medicine. And so Dr. Doug Johnston here in Cleveland at the Cleveland Clinic was really one of the first professionals in medicine we connected with. And as we started to have these multidisciplinary conversations about what is it that makes someone world-class and how can we adopt what it means to be world-class from other disciplines into medicine, we realized that there's an amazing opportunity to have an engagement like we did today, which is to bring together a group of people at different levels of medicine, from early residents to very senior surgeons, and discuss what might it mean to reimagine training.
What makes a pilot great is someone that has what we call golden hands, but really it's the soft skills, right? We call it crew resource management, but how does a pilot interact with the rest of the crew? How does a pilot interact with all the outside agencies that you talk to through the radio or through other aircraft in a formation? And that involves things like self-awareness, situational awareness, leadership, communication skills, empathy, humility, right? An ability to take feedback from the most junior member of the team and be able to take that humbly, because you can always be better.
And one of the important takeaways also for me is that you got to be able to control the different phases of what you're going to be doing, and that has been exemplified with the last example with Greg, is that you need to make sure that when you are into an operation, whether that be to execute a show or surgery or a mission from a C-17, or is that you need to make sure whatever your emotional status, if it's not negative, it should not impact your performance. You should be able to switch and be able to be ready for the next operation at your best level performance.
With the theatrical games, it's really getting people to get out of their own way, really, and just open up and be open to the things I'm asking them to do. A lot of people take a moment, maybe even only after a few days of doing it do they really kind of break through. But they do have these amazing breakthroughs, and they're really epiphany moments for a lot of people, like real aha moments.
I think the similarity to Olympic sports and medicine is that you are in a situation where you can set yourself up to thrive. It's not a survival type of situation. And granted, yes, you do have someone, the stakes are quite a bit higher. I mean, I think losing a race or a game is not nearly as drastic as losing someone's life. But I do think that there are a lot of controllable things in your environment, like your team, who you surround yourself with, how you communicate with them. I also think you can know your environment and you know the skills you need, and so you can practice those as much or as little as you want. So I think that is one of the biggest crossovers that I see. Is it's too, especially from what I'm starting to learn in this surgical field, it's a tactile skill, so it's something that you can practice in any format you want, whether it's inside the OR or outside, playing basketball with your kid. How do you communicate with them, and how do you set yourself up for success when you can?
That's why this is so interesting, is because we're all working in teams of variable people coming from a lot of different backgrounds and ideas and educations that everyone has to have the same purpose in order for that team to work well. And I think that has been sort of an overarching theme that, again, can be applied in any sort of arena.
We go 100 miles an hour every time. We're in a high arousal state, from when you walk into the hospital for the most time to the end these days. And, not having the time to recover, I think, does add on you as time goes on. So I think I'm going to work on figuring out ways that I could recover in between things so that, both I'm happy and I know people around me happy because I'm happy.
Thinking about that not in terms of how we stand around, but how we move around, and thinking about it as choreography and how we interact with each other was something I never would have thought about before.
What we're working on are not those technical choice-making skills. We're working on the adaptive skills. How are we paying attention to so much more information around us, and how are we continually evolving our own patterns and norms? And to me, that's always super inspiring to get around like-minded folk, because they're very purpose-driven and they care about self-improvement and systems improvement, and ultimately improvement for the patient or the client or society or whatever your constituency might be. And so I think that there's a lot of similarities between a creative artist and a surgeon, and that we know that the performance is never the same. It's different every time. And it's incumbent upon us to stay right at the border of what we can do and what we can't do, and to keep expanding and pushing that border further and further out.
Kind of neat to hear from both a scientific approach that your oxygen and CO2, some of that actually helps regulate and refocus you. But I think some of those thoughts certainly translate, especially trying to overcome some of the stresses that we have. When something becomes stressful, you feel your heart rate elevate, you feel that internal stress, and having some skills and even training to be able to kind of cope with that, to kind of recenter yourself, I think are some unique but very useful tools practically.
So I think the greatest idea I've heard today came from the gentleman who worked in the Air Force and flew the C-17s, about all of the kind of soft skills that go into their training and how that impacts how they function as a team. Those are things that we talk about and use when describing ourselves in our careers, and cardiac surgeons or any kind of surgeon really, but they're not taught. They're assuming that you pick those up as you go through the training program. But I think it could be much more effective to figure out a way to implement those in our training, so that's more of an active learning rather than a passive learning you pick up along the way.
Interesting when you have people that are high achievers in any realm. There's a lot of similarities that you can draw on as far as their experiences and what it took to get to that level. For us, I do think that the arena of a surgical environment and the arena of a high-performing basketball team have a lot of leadership parallels that we can both learn from.
Any field that there's an expectation to perform at the highest standards, where the end state is about service and lives, has to always be a phenomenal learning organization. So in that context, how are your disciplined processes in a very dynamic, ever-changing, uncertain environment, constantly giving structure to learning to make the organization better and better, 1 or 2% every day. And that kind of cultural mindset and discipline into training and developing others, not just the functional skill, but all the cognitive factors and the human factors, that's the foundation of success, especially across a team that has to succeed, is I think the most critical piece.
What I am struck by, and what I think our team reflects and what today reflected, is that the first principle of high performance is unequivocally humility. And it's not the humility that says don't be braggadocious or don't boast, but the deeper expression of humility, which is to say, no matter how good I am or how much I've accomplished, I can be better. And if I want to go to the next level and continue to be a master craftsman, or more importantly, just to continue to pursue being a master craftsman, that's the connection that happens by being deeply intellectually curious and being willing to have conversations outside of one's comfort zone. And that was really the foundation of today.